Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming today. It's my honor to welcome Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General Mike Morris here today. Also joining us from the Canada Border Services Agency is Director Darlene Clips and CBSA West Coast and Yukon, as well as Cindy Gill, Acting Superintendent of CBSA's Vancouver International Mail Centre. I'd also like to introduce our Acting Chief Del Manick, as well as Staff Sergeant Connor King. First of all, I'd like to ask Acting Chief Manick to say a few words about our successful fentanyl seizure. Chief.
Thanks, Matt. So good morning, everyone. First of all, it's my pleasure to welcome Minister Mike Morris, Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, who is joining us here at VicPD today. And again, joining us also is Canadian Border Services Agency Director Darlene Clips, CBSA West Coast and Yukon Region, as well as Cindy Gill, Acting Superintendent of CBA's Vancouver International Mail Centre. It's an honor to have these partners with us today as we announce a major operational success that directly supports the multi-jurisdictional efforts in combating the ongoing opioid crisis that is affecting so many British Columbians. As this public health emergency continues, VicPD is on the front lines on the fight against fentanyl. We have partnered with the province, neighboring police agencies, and other first responders to work together for harm reduction measures that can be effectively applied at the street level. To that end, we were the first municipal police department in the province of British Columbia to equip our officers with naloxone kits. So if paramedics or firefighters are not immediately available, we can intervene to save someone who is suffering from an overdose. We are also a persistent voice in the public conversation about the opioid crisis, lending our support to a wide range of measures for harm reduction in our community. But VicPD's most prominent role in this crisis continues to be the targeting of drug traffickers who prey on the most vulnerable people in our society. And that really is the focus of today's announcement. VicPD, working with our partners from the Canada Border Services Agency and the Saanich Police Department, have completed an operation that resulted in $1.2 million worth of illicit drugs being intercepted before they could reach our streets. The operation began when the Canada Border Services Agency discovered a shipment of fentanyl from China that was bound for an address in Victoria. CBSA alerted VicPD, and we initiated an investigation to disrupt the flow of fentanyl into our community. VicPD officers confirmed the Victoria address, which then led them to an address in Saanich. In cooperation with the Saanich Police Department, VicPD officers successfully seized a large quantity of drugs that was prepared for distribution at that location. This included 6,052 individual doses of a heroin fentanyl mixture. VicPD officers also seized 6.2 kilograms of cocaine, both in powder and crack form, most of which was packaged in individual for resale amounts. And finally, VicPD seized 1.2 kilograms of methamphetamine that was already for resale on our streets. Now, we estimate the street value of the seizure to be $850,000. As for the initial shipment of fentanyl from China that triggered this operation, that shipment contained 1.45 kilograms of fentanyl. Now, considering the lethal dose of fentanyl could be as little as 2 milligrams, there was enough fentanyl in this shipment to cause 725,000 possible overdoses. That's more than twice the population of the entire Capital Regional District. Now, in terms of street value, we estimate that the value of the fentanyl seizure itself was $400,000. So as I said earlier, the most prominent role that we play in the crisis continues to be targeting of drug traffickers who continue to prey on the most vulnerable people in our community. And on that note, I am immensely proud of our VicPD team that executed this successful operation. Because of their efforts, a significant amount of illicit drugs and potentially lethal drugs will not be reaching the streets of our community. I also want to thank our partners for their roles in enabling this success. Criminals do not respect political boundaries, and so our established partnerships with federal, provincial, and local law enforcement agencies is a key to fighting this fentanyl crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to ask now Minister Morris to come up and say a few words.
Thanks very much. I want to acknowledge the hard work that your PD has done with this particular case, and also the Canadian Border Services. Great job by everybody. In the Chief's remarks, he mentioned many times the importance of integrated work amongst law enforcement agencies and amongst everybody that's involved in our struggles here in not only in the capital region, but right across this great country of ours in dealing with substances like we see before us here, and fentanyl that has caused so many deaths here in British Columbia and across Canada. So it's one of the reasons why we established our joint task force. We declared a medical emergency with the fentanyl overdoses we're having in the province here earlier this year, and we've done a number of things working in conjunction with the health department. The chief mentioned the naloxone kits that all our first responders have here in British Columbia and Victoria, and those kits have been used numerous times. As a result of the application of naloxone by first responders, we've saved hundreds of lives here in British Columbia over the last few months that would otherwise have succumbed to the overdose from fentanyl. All our first responders are receiving training in the use of naloxone, in the injectable form as well as the nasal spray models. We're encouraging families that have people that are suffering from addictions to ensure that they've got naloxone kits available for them at home and in their vehicles, wherever they might go, and that anybody that is suffering from the throes of addiction, that make sure that you've got somebody with you at all times in the event that you do take something that is laced with naloxone, like the heroin is here, and like so many other drugs that we've come across here in British Columbia. Law enforcement is critical in the fight against trafficking in British Columbia here, and like the chief has said, the cooperation that we have and the discipline that we have between agencies in British Columbia and Canada in fighting this is second to none. BC does a very good job in integrating the police resources that we have for the common good of making sure that we stop these folks in their tracks. A seizure like this, I think, demonstrates the gravity of the situation that we're facing here, not only in Victoria and British Columbia, but right across Canada. As you know, the Premier and the Health Minister were in Ottawa not too long ago, emphasizing the needs of British Columbia and emphasizing the critical impact that fentanyl is having not only in British Columbia but across Canada, and the need for additional resources with CBSA, with the RCMP, and any other agency that can assist us in this. So I'm very happy that we've seen some movement there. The RCMP have signed an agreement right now with the Chinese Public Safety Agency, and they're working hand in hand to try and stop the flow of illicit fentanyl and some of the precursors that we have in China from coming into Canada. Federally, the federal government are having some very high-level diplomatic discussions right now with the government of China to see what further actions that they can take to make a lot of these substances illegal in China, so that we can deal with it more appropriately over here. So I'm hoping that, and you'll hear from the Canada Border Services in a minute, but I'm hoping that we'll see the amount of work that they're dedicating to scanning all these parcels and all these packages coming into Canada is going to reduce the amount of fentanyl that we see coming into Canada. So we'll keep working on that front. We put in an additional $23 million into our gangs and gun strategy, because a lot of the activity that we see in the Lower Mainland is associated to that and associated to the drug trade and fentanyl. And we're going to continue to keep the pressure on those individual groups and organizations that are trafficking right now in British Columbia, so that we can put them behind bars, seize their assets and turn it into civil forfeiture assets, so that we can enhance a lot of our public safety programs that we have across Canada here. The overdose crisis that we have right now in BC is significant, and whatever steps that we can do to enlighten the public, to make sure, and that's why I really appreciate seeing the media attention that we get in situations like this, because people need to be aware of the significant danger that these things present. Talk to your children. Talk to the people that are involved in this. We hear a lot of discussion in different circles about the recreational use of drugs, which is a term that quite frankly offends me. Recreational use of drugs should not be a term that people use lightly, yet we have people going out on weekends. We have a lot of professional people that keep these dial-a-dope operations going well and get their weekend supply of whatever they might use. And I think we're going to see them suffering from the effects of fentanyl-laced drugs as well, if we haven't already seen that. So stopping guns and gangs is paramount, but stopping the flow of illicit drugs into Canada from source countries like China is paramount for us as well. So my hat's off to you guys. Great work between the two agencies, or all the agencies involved in this, and I look forward to more work in the future to stem this flow. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I'd like to now ask Darlene Klips from the CBSA to come up and say a few words.
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm really happy to represent the Canada Border Services Agency today at this important event, highlighting the work that we do, both at the ports of entry and with our partners. Canada Border Services Agency continues to work very closely with our domestic law enforcement partners, such as the Victoria Police. And we do this to protect our communities. We are relentlessly focused on keeping unsafe substances such as fentanyl from entering Canada. And we're very thrilled to be here to highlight our role in working with our partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director. So we'd like to open the floor to questions now. Staff Sergeant King with the Victoria Police will answer any questions related to our investigation, as well. He's a drug expert in fentanyl. We also have CBSA Cindy Gill, and she'll answer any questions regarding the CBSA investigation. And if you'd like to direct a question to Acting Chief Manick or Minister Morris, just preface your question with who you'd like it to speak to it. So one question time. Katie?
So for CBSA, there's been talk about certain size of packages that you aren't able to open. Can you talk about was this package of a certain size that you were able to open, or how were you able to gain access to this package, and what was suspicious about it?
Okay, so we do have legislative authority to open any packages. However, there is under 30 grams, there is sort of a limit. We do have to have authority to open those packages, but this parcel was over 30 grams.
This could be for a number of you. Is there any sense of how many more bags like that of heroin fentanyl could be out in the streets of Victoria? And an even larger question potentially for Minister Morris across the province.
I can say that in the city of Victoria, unfortunately, this kind of operation is it's all too common. This group of individuals weren't even on our radar necessarily. We are focused at all times on all sorts of crime groups in the city, but the profit that is available to crime groups is so tempting that there are many factions, many crime groups operating at any given time. So to answer your question, I can't say a specific number, but certainly too many.
Minister Morris, to that, if possible, province-wide, but more to this work that you're doing now, Darcy and Piers with China. Is there anything that could be done through that cooperation that would have stopped something like this? Or is this as simple as them, because it's unregulated, they're putting it in the mail in China and sending it to Canada?
Well, that's a simple fact that we're faced with today. So that's what the RCMP is working with the Chinese Public Safety Agency to try and stop. So the known producers of fentanyl and the precursors over in China, they're going to concentrate their efforts on that from a law enforcement perspective. The federal government is trying to get China to change some of the laws to make a lot of the production of that illegal as well. So I think we're going to see some significant results from that. But it's there's a long pipe between here and China, and when you turn the tap off, there's still a lot of product in the pipeline. It'll take a while for it to stop. When you talk about province-wide, the amount of heroin, I've seen drug seizures all my life, this size, bigger, smaller, province-wide. So, we've got a significant problem. We're going to continue to have a significant problem. As long as there's vulnerable people out there that are addicted to these drugs, there's going to be some low life that's going to try and take advantage of that.
Can I just ask a question about further to the tap? You just mentioned turning off the tap. Obviously, it was just last week that this deal between the feds and China was announced. How soon can you expect to see that, start to squeeze down a bit? Are these going to be coming for another few months before we can?
I haven't been updated on where they are today, but I know that they're making significant strides forward in that, and I'm hoping to see some significant results in the not too distant future.
Is that like months or like weeks, months, 6 months? I have no idea how long these things.
Yeah, and I don't either. So it depends on the complexity. So I've been involved in the periphery on international investigations before, and because it's different countries, different laws, different processes, different procedures, it sometimes takes a little bit longer to do things than we're normally expected to do in Canada.
Just wondering, City Hill, you were mentioning that you don't have the authority to open any parcels under 30 grams?
Without permission.
Without permission?
Authorization.
So would you suspect much of the shipments are arriving in that size?
We don't have a scope of if they're coming through those packages. What we do have, once we get authorization, we do have authority to open it, but I don't have a number to give you.
Louise?
It's a question for caller, a couple of questions actually. Did you find any pill presses in the Victoria or the Sandwich residence?
No, we did not find pill presses.
So the drugs weren't did you seize pills there?
No, we didn't seize any pills. So what was happening was this fentanyl was being adulterated into heroin. So it was a heroin fentanyl mixture and then sold in those flaps made up of lottery paper that you see before you. That is the form in which this fentanyl was making its way into street level distribution.
We had the press conference in June and you talked about the unevenness of the fentanyl and the heroin mixture. Did you do any analysis of this?
No, because of the time frame that we're looking at here, we haven't been able to do an analysis as to the purity of each individual dose, but I can say almost to a certainty that no two amounts of fentanyl will be the same in all 6,000 doses. And that, of course, is what makes it incredibly dangerous. Not only is it dangerous in any amount, but the user who may become accustomed to or feel familiar with a certain visual amount of heroin/fentanyl will not realize that perhaps they're taking a higher dose than they're accustomed to because of the lack of uniformity in the dosages.
And lastly, do you expect more people will be charged?
Yes, there will be additional charges against the individual who has been named, and the investigation is ongoing as to the identity of his associates. Once identified, there will be additional charges.
In Vancouver, we've heard about carfentanil showing up. Did you find any of that?
So we did not find any carfentanil so far. Not all of the drugs have been analyzed.
Can I perhaps ask, sorry.
Mary, do you have a question?
I was just going to ask, you said, Staff Sergeant, that this suspect wasn't even on the radar. So can you give us a sense of maybe how much of the substance is being smuggled onto the island, for example?
it's difficult for us to make a definitive determination as to how much drugs are coming in. As I mentioned, with some organizations, we're very familiar with them, and we are able to keep better tabs on them. Other organizations, other crime groups like this one, just happened to arrive here not too long ago, and we're able to operate, as I said, generally under the radar. So we're always trying to make a determination as to how much drug availability there is, but it's a very inexact science.
And perhaps for CBSA, and I know that you'll be limited to what you can tell, but maybe talk about how you came to notice this package, how those things happen.
All goods are subject to examination, further examination, more in-depth examination. Once those parcels come through, risk assessment is done on the parcel using non-intrusive inspection tools, our innovative technology, a training for the officers, and all those are taken into account. Once a risk assessment is done of the parcel, we can determine how we're going to do that examination.
And I guess how often do these packages of this size sort of come to your attention that you would contact a police force and say, you got to take a look?
Well, all packages are, once we do determine that it is an unknown powder and it is determined to be, I can't give you a number exactly how much we have looked through, but the RCMP and our local law enforcement officers are contacted once that determination is made.
Yeah,
I'm not sure who it's for, but do you have any sense, so it's arrived here, where this, with the final destination areas, would it have remained, do you suspect, on the island or distributed?
So I have every reason to believe that everything you see here was destined for the greater Victoria area. While some of it may have been moved, some of the larger quantities, for instance, may have been moved into the hands of other lower-level drug dealers, and nothing would preclude them from then moving it up island or into Vancouver. But generally, I believe that much of this was destined for our market.
And if that had happened, what do you, because we've just gone through a record-breaking week for doses and calls to 911, what would you have anticipated would have happened if that had hit?
Well, you're right. We've had 9 deaths in the previous 11 days on Vancouver Island. Every dose of fentanyl that's on the street is a potential lethal overdose. So taking 6,052 doses of fentanyl off the street hopefully will actually save lives. We don't want this stuff on the street. Every opportunity to intercede in its arrival is a potential overdose prevented.
Go ahead, Katie.
Are you able to say that, like, the house in Saanich, was it a single-family home, rental, or are you able to say maybe how long those people have been there?
I can say that it was an apartment. It was an apartment inside an apartment building in East Saanich neighborhood. It was a large apartment building, and very importantly, this was a family-oriented apartment building, and there was a certain amount of surprise to see that this was the destination for this fentanyl shipment. I can't tell you how long the occupants were residing there.
But I'm sorry, are you able to give us any details on the suspect? How long he's been here? He's from Montreal. Any other information?
Only that, yes, indeed, you're correct. He is from Montreal. He seems to not have any local ties here, which would lend us to believe that he is here for the purposes of being involved in the drug trade rather than any legitimate purpose. He is known to the Montreal police and was out on bail for drug charges out of Montreal.
Any other question?
Yeah, and I don't know if you can ask this, but just regarding this package, so CBS alerts police that it happened, that they've come across it. Is it was physically intercepted, or do you let it go to the destination and then you got it there? Sorry, I'm just wanting to be clear on that.
So it was physically intercepted by CBSA. We don't let the package actually go to the recipient, correct.
But then that led you to...
Yes, so once we were notified of the address in Victoria, which was the destination address, which in this case happened to be in the Cook Street Village area of Victoria, using that piece of information, we were able to then determine the second destination for the package, which of course was the address in the apartment building in East Saanich. And that is where we executed a search warrant under the Controlled Drug and Substance Act and seized the drugs that you see here.
And did you find any at the Cook Street Village location as well?
No.
So only time for 2 more questions. Is there any more?
And I'm sorry, just in terms of, I don't know if you can answer these questions for the suspect. Do you suspect that he'll be charged today or with anything?
He's already been charged with 1 count of importation of fentanyl and 1 count of possession for the purposes of trafficking fentanyl. He will face additional charges in relation to the cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine.
Perfect. So thank you.
Is he being held in custody?
Yes, he's in custody now. He's been in custody since the arrest.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. We'll coordinate some photos a little closer of the exhibits, and that's it. Thank you.